what's happened at the brain level? At the brain level, we found that this is a brain activity at baseline. So we pull together all the depressed patients, compare this to the healthy volunteers at W0, so at baseline, and we found that there were 3 main regions that were more activated in depressed patients compared to control. We know that this region is involved in cognitive control of emotion, and we found that after 1 week of treatment, there is a normalization of this ventrolateral prefrontal cortex hyperactivity. The agomelatín has early brain effect on self-processing in depression, and this is observed before any changes in the clinical symptomatology. We can say that the agomelatín set up the brain for long-term antidepressant response and remissions. And we can say also that agomelatín targets emotional processing related to social functioning recovery in depressed patients.
And this is here, I think, a very important study by Mark Zimmerman et al. Most of their studies are very clinically interesting. And what they did here is they looked at a group of patients suffering from major depression, and they asked to these patients, tell us what for you is the most important thing to consider yourself cured from your depression. And this is the rank order of the answers of a group of depressed patients. The first thing, the most important for patients, is the presence of positive mental health. Words like optimism, vigor, self-confidence, all terms that you never find in our questionnaires. Second one, feeling like your usual self, like your normal self. Very important for patients, never in our scales. The third one, and that's why my talk today is on functional impairment, the third most important one for patients is return to usual level of functioning at work or home. And I sometimes say, the way we look at things, if you love photography, you know that there's a huge difference in what you're going to see with a wide angle zoom or with a telezoom. It's going to be totally different. So I sometimes say that the way we play with scales is just like playing its game of mirrors. It's just playing with images and reflections, etc. What you look at is what you see, and what you don't look at, you don't see. So for example, just one example here, study published by Martinotti. It was a study, it was agomelatín versus venlafaxine. Just look at the left part of the slide. This is the standard way of looking. This is the 50 millimeter lens. And you look at it and you see, what do you see? Well, you see equal efficacy, comparable efficacy between agomelatín and venlafaxine. But however, you put another lens on it and you look at anhedonia, you look at positive affect, and what do you see? A dramatic change, a dramatic difference, and it just took you 1 week in that study, you see it here at 8 weeks, a dramatic difference between the two drugs if you look at changes in positive affect, in anhedonia. So the way you look at things makes what you see and makes what you don't see.
It gives us unique and a lot of information of what has been done clinically in research studies, double-blind controlled studies with agomelatín during the last decade. And this is a data set which comes from a meta-analysis from Siegfried Kasper and from Cohen de Métanier. Both of them have analyzed all studies which have been done comparing the agomelatín agent with other agents which are given in the bottom of the slide, a lot of SSRIs and dual reuptake inhibitors. And they were looking on the left part whether this has any changes brought in the Hamilton score comparing agomelatín versus the comparators, or in the response rates, which were defined by a 50% increase in the Hamilton score. And what you see is short-term and long-term data in the same slide, all of them indicating that we have a very robust data set that agomelatín is an efficacious drug. And as you see in a full analysis set, and also in a subset of Hamilton score patients with a score over 25, and in very severe sick patients in the bottom, where the score was 25 and the CGI was greater 5, you always see, compared to placebo, a very nice improvement in Hamilton values of 5 points. And if you compare that to what you know from other data, you know most of the drugs we know have an improvement of 2 to 3 Hamilton points. This is even more in this particular group of severely sick patients. It looks at patients being over 65 years old. So the elderly group has been addressed in a controlled study. And this is, again, the meta-analysis telling you about Hamilton score improvements and response rates. And again, you will see quite nice response rates in that group, and also being pronounced in those who were more severe, that means large Hamilton score and CGI, but also those who were more anxious among the subgroup, that means having a Hamilton D item 10 and 11 of greater equal 5. After 2 weeks and 6 weeks, comparing a visual analog scale of assessing clear thinking between escitalopram and agomelatin. And I think there's nothing to comment on, as you see clearly that you have an advantage even after the very short time of 2 weeks when you give agomelatin to your patients. There is a significant response with agomelatin in conventional symptoms, but there's also a signal of improvement in social functioning. And I believe this relates to its ability to target anhedonia and to improve pleasure. And again, this is due to the unique pharmacology of this agent.